This is a cylinder. So if we put a cylindrical table inside of a box, I'm going to take this box here, but I'm going to move it. I'm going to use this. I'm going to say, what's the height to width proportion of that cylinder? Seems to be a little wider than it is tall, right? So again, this is about that wide, and it seems to be about 2/3 as tall. So I'm going to make a box once again that's wider than it is tall. And I'm changing it. I'm not really using this box here. I'm using this line here as the top of my box because I wanted to slide it forward a little bit. But I've put this piece of paper back underneath, even though I'm not totally using that box, because I need that vanishing point and I need that room so that everything in the room goes to the same point. So that table's drawn. The box of the table crosses the station point and the vanishing point, right? So that table is drawn back into here like this. In this box, I wouldn't see the right or the left side of it. I'd come down from here to say that would be the end. And this would be the end of that. And then this would go off to vanishing point. So there's a good box to put this table inside of. Now an ellipse sits on the center in a horizontal. So how do I find the center of a plane? If I had a square or a rectangle, let's do a rectangle, and we draw from corner to corner, we define the middle, right? So this says, if we draw now horizontal here, that the middle of this line is going to be right there, and the middle of this line is going to be right there, right? Seems pretty obvious. But if we put that into perspective, say we're drawing off this way, and that this plane now becomes this plane right here. If I x from this corner to that corner, and from this corner to that corner, then I can take this and draw vertical just like I did there, and say this is halfway from here to there. Now look how much smaller that is and how much bigger that is. It's kind of surprising when you measure this way, but the truth is that things get smaller as they disappear or as they move off into the distance, right? So we would expect this to be bigger in front and smaller in the back. Because my vanishing point's so close, I'm getting a really dramatic decrease in size there. I can go from here to the vanishing point, and that tells me where the middle of these lines are going that direction. Okay? So what I want to find is the middle of this table, so I can find, like, put a center to that circle. So I'm going to x from this corner to that corner, and from this corner to that corner, and then I'm going to draw a line right here. The reason I need that line is because I need to draw an ellipse inside of this box that touches here and here and here and here and here. Right? So when that goes into perspective, I'm doing this with it instead of this, actually, right? So my ellipse touches the center, clear back there, here and there, and then out, something like that. So I'm going to draw an ellipse that goes to this point and that point, and then loops down towards this one. So I'm getting a nice circle there. Now I'm going to bring that circle down to the floor. So I'm going to project this line and this line down the table to this point on the floor. I'm going to draw another circle. This one is bigger and rounder and wider, which is the way it should be, because we know that when we see an ellipse on eye level, it looks like this, right? The tape at eye level does this, and then it gets a little bit rounder as it goes below the eye, and rounder and rounder and rounder till it hits the floor. So that's the ellipse there. The ellipse here would probably be something like this. And an ellipse down here would be even rounder. And an ellipse down here would be the most round, right? As we're looking down on it at the floor. So if it were flat here and then it got a little rounder and a little more round and most round as it hits the floor, or as we're looking way down onto something, then we might see it circular as it sits down on the floor. Same thing happens above your eye level. It's narrow and then wider and wider and wider until it totally gets up, until you're looking straight up at it. All right, so back to this cylinder. If I see this piece of furniture as a cylinder, this is the cylinder that's going to contain that. So first I drew the box that it was going to be shipped in. Then I drew the cylinder that relates to the table. Now I need to see that this has some thickness to it. So I think I'll come down here a little bit and down here a little bit, and I'll draw another cylinder right underneath that. So now I've got the thickness of the wood at the top of the table. On the bottom, I want to have the thickness of the wood too, but that's going to come from here. If I draw a line up here to this point and this point, then that's going to create a roundness down here. And then that's going to continue up here, and this is actually going to go above that because this is above that too, right? So that cylinder is going to come around this way until it disappears behind that guy over there. So now, just like when I drew the square table, I drew the top and the bottom, then I had these sticks going in between. Here I've drawn the top and the bottom, and now I need to do sticks in between, right? So I'm going to take this, I'm going to say, well, if I come in here and I draw a vertical, and I come in here and draw a vertical, I'm going to go outside of that vertical right here, and I'm going to go actually inside because those are a little wonky. I can correct as I go, right? Make it look a little better. So now I've got two sticks. I need to show the size of the sticks. Notice how there's 3 lines there that show because you're standing here, you can see the inside of this stick and you can see the inside of that stick, right? So I'm going to draw from here towards the vanishing point and then come up or come down. I'm going to draw from here to the vanishing point, and I'm going to come up until I hit the top of the table. Get my eraser in there a little bit so I can see and understand what I'm doing. These lines come all the way to the floor. There's actually separation here, so I want to bring this down to the floor, and I want to bring this down to the floor, and I'll bring this from the vanishing point. So I'm changing it a little bit. I want to erase this, and this, and this. I'm going to redraw now that I understand better. So it's a step-by-step process. My understanding of how this thing works is not coming all at once. I'm drawing and then I'm changing it. So drawing is a series of corrections, right? You look at it, you make a mark, then you're like, wait, that's not quite right. So there's something weird happening here. What is it? Well, if this thing comes around and it hits this stick, this one here has a stick all the way to the floor. So I'm going to take that to the floor. See, this is going round, and this is coming to the floor, and that's going round. So I want to erase those lines. Now I see a stick here and a stick there. But this seems kind of flat. I can see the top of this ring. So where's that going to happen? Well, if I come here, and then I go towards the vanishing point here where I had this drawn in, should have left it before I erased it, right? This was coming back that way. So right here, these 2 points are where that's going to come around and create the top of this ring. So I'm going to see the top of it and the front side of it. So I'm going to draw a line right next to that, along like so, and I'm only going to do it halfway, and I'll show you why here. And I'll pull that ring down this way, imagining that that's going to then hit this point right here. Now this time I'm going to keep it inside. It's going to be below that. be below this line here. So this ring's going to come around like that and that. So I'm seeing the top of the ring around there. These lines, I believe, are going to meet. If I look at this stool and I say the stool on the top has a stick right there and a stick right there, then these sticks over here are going to be straight across from those. Right? There's going to be an opening there, and then there's going to be a ring around this way and around this way. So this is a top view. Sometimes I need a top view of a piece of furniture, right? The front view of this would look like this. Right? So I need to show some depth here too though, right? So I'm going to take like a ribbon. I'm going to draw about here halfway. See how this disappears over here? Where this comes into that is the same spot, so I come across and that's where I draw a third line here. So I'm showing the top and the inside of that. It's just like I'm showing the top and the inside or the outside of that, right? So I'm going to come here and I'm going to draw this into where that disappears in the middle. So now I'm showing 3 dimensions of this ring. The question is, am I going to see these points over here? In order to find the answer, I'm going to take these lines here that are moving in depth. I'm going to take them towards the vanishing point. So this line, see how this is isometric? See how that's going off over there? It's got to go really steep up in there. So I'm going to change that a little bit and make them go much steeper. I think it's a really sharp line that's going to happen in there. Sometimes we tend to do symbols, right? We do a little isometric, kind of, we'll pull this out because people understand that when they see it. But if this is going back towards the vanishing point here, and it's not going to be seen on the inside of there. This one has it drawn on the outside. There's 2 sticks drawn here and here, but I think I want to take this. Maybe I'll do it on top of the table, huh? Take this up to the top, walk it back this way, and see how this then would drop down there. I probably would see just a little bit of that stick. I'm going to find it here to connect to that. And this would come this direction to there and then drop down, so I'd see just a tiny bit of that stick on the inside of there. All right, so there's the round table.